I imagine you've been hearing in the news that this is about the 1-year anniversary of when COVID really settled down in on us. And in particular, for us at Gethsemane, for us here in this part of Houston, our little church family, it was tomorrow, actually, on the 15th, when we were on our Sunday Lenten service, that we announced that would be our last live in-person service for, whatever the period of time was going to be. It's been a long, long journey. Remember how much we didn't know back then? We didn't know anything about Zoom. My goodness, if we did and bought stock, can you imagine? We didn't know anything about that Zoom stuff or telephone, how to do a service over that. So many things we didn't know. Apparently, we knew we were all going to need toilet paper. Do you remember that? It's so funny to laugh about it now. I noticed this last storm when it hit, the toilet paper was just fine. We didn't have any problem with that. When the freeze was coming, it was the milk and the bread and everything else. But so many things we didn't know, and we had to step out into an uncertain future. I know it was rocky for us at times. I know we stumbled occasionally. I know there were times when we didn't get our video and our audio all smooth and perfect, and so much that we learned. I'm really grateful for the patience of all of you as God's people as we figured it out and how we could serve and share and encourage and keep us connected to God and to one another the best we figured out how to do. I'm also very grateful to God that He revealed to us, this source, this way of communion, and all these things that we've adjusted and are doing in new ways. And if there is any experience that I think we've all been through now in this last year that gets us ready for today's message, I think it's what we've been through. We've lived a year that would just shock the Lutherans of the past, those we've never done it this way before Lutherans. We've lived through that. We've lived through the year of stepping out. It almost makes this message just so easy. I could just stop right now. We've already done it. We could just kind of do what the Apostle Peter says, now you've already done it, just add to this and add this and add a little more. We could just, call it quits. But in particular, I think we still have tests to pass. And what I mean by that is this idea that we've been looking at the tests that God puts before us is not because He's trying to fail anybody out of heaven, but it's because He's trying to help us see where we still need extra strengthening. In my backyard right now, I guess because we've had such great mulch and such wonderful watering plan, we have 3 fence posts that have rotted out. It's time to put in a new fence. And it was only really by kind of testing and digging in there, finding that the concrete, on one of them it even split. Okay, it's the concrete's fault. On the other ones it just rotted, whatever it was. But it was only digging in to reveal that the issue was, what the issue was, that we now know what we have to do. And when you go to the doctor and they do a stress test, they're not looking to try to fail you and say, oh, I'll never be your doctor anymore. They're looking to say, where's a blockage? Where's a narrowing? So we can fix it now before it becomes something really serious. That's the testing that a God who loves us enough just the way we are, but loves us too much to let us stay that way, that God brings these tests to help us step forward to, as Peter said so beautifully in his letter in 2 Peter 1 verse 8, that when you possess these qualities in increasing measure, they will keep you from being ineffective and unproductive in your knowledge of the Lord Jesus Christ. If you're here on a regular basis, and so many of you are every Sunday Christians, God bless you. If you're watching this, or listening in with us on the audio, and God bless those folks for whom the technology, all they have is a phone line, and they have hung in there with us for all this year. And for those who found that, just God bless all of that. But these tests of God are to help us stretch even more. And I want to remind you of some of the tests we did. The first one was just Jesus saying, will you follow me? Will you find my voice? Will you find my call and invitation to this adventure of faith? Will you find that something that stirs something in you, as it did the original 12 disciples? Will you follow? And then it's as if he says, then he takes us up a notch and says, now will you obey? If you love me, then you'll obey my teaching. And my teaching's really easy. What I want you to obey is I want you to love one another. He also asks us to be witnesses, to not just love each other, but to witness to his love to the world or our families around us and wherever we find ourselves, in whatever corner of the world. And it's been a challenge to adjust our faith and adjust our behavior. And I think maybe, particularly the reason God's placing this step out in faith test for us now is to say we've had to huddle and be socially distant and separate for so long. It's time for some little steps. Now, some of you, let me do a quick, how many of you have already had the first shot? Just the first one? A lot. And then let's see quick, how many of you have had the second one? All right, and now last one. How many of you have had the second one that's been at least 2 weeks? Now, haven't you already felt like stepping out? Like, I could go to the grocery store and not wear my mask because I've had my shots. I could, maybe we could resume autumn group and our game day again. Little birds tell me that's being looked into, by the way. You heard it here first. This confidence that these 2 shots have given us to step out and start to resume normal life, as the number of people who get that grows, it's just a growing thing. Imagine for a moment, think and reflect with me for a moment of the confidence that is ours as children of God, that we have the shot of our salvation, the booster of his blood applied to us, the assurance that nothing in all creation can ever separate us from his love or snatch us out of his hand, and the confidence that can give us to step out. What that means, and whatever image you want to use of Jesus when he says the farmer sows seed, not every seed's going to grow to 100%, but enough of it's going to grow to a harvest of 30 or 60 or 100% that you won't even notice the ones that don't. Step out and sow. Share, encourage, love, or again, as he says, add to your faith goodness. Sow some goodness. My goodness, how great would it be to be the ones giving those eggs or filling those eggs or scattering those eggs around someone's yard. The only thing that I think that could beat it is if the mom or dad would share a picture of the big eyes and the big smile on the child when they go out and get them. That'd be the only thing, if we could be there for that moment too. But even when you and I can't be there for those moments, we know it's happening. That's part of what gives us the joy to do the goodness like that. To goodness, add knowledge. In Bible study, I'm going to talk in particular that when we step out, we're not just doing it because, well, I think I'll do this and God will probably bless it. We're stepping out based on the knowledge of what he's already revealed to us. It's not as if you and I have to invent this stuff or figure it out. But stepping out may mean God is going to ask us to do things that seem at first blush unusual, strange. How can Easter eggs on somebody's front lawn be a blessing? Well, they can. How was it that when the Israelites were asked to go conquer Jericho, instead of a full frontal assault with the attack of their army, instead of them coming with their spears and their swords against this city with 33-foot thick walls, God said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go and especially put your musicians in front. Yay, God, for musicians, right? Yay, God, for what Doug's done to keep us and the choir's done to keep us going for this whole year. Put your musicians out there and march around the city. Have a parade. You wonder what they were thinking. Have a parade? We're just going to let them pick us off and shoot arrows at us and throw stones at us while we're doing it? Or if we do this, do we think maybe somehow that by marching around we'll compress the ground and the walls begin to sink so we can just climb over them easier? No, don't just march around the city once. How about do it for 7 days? If you've ever seen VeggieTales, a very cute little animated thing trying to bring Bible stories to life, they envision this story happening. There's two little French peas up on the wall of Jericho, and they sing this little song where they go, why are you walking around my wall? What are you doing? It's just, you really, look it up on YouTube if you want to. The French peas and VeggieTales Jericho, you'll see it. And it's just a hilarious story. How the people in Jericho must have just laughed at them, cracked jokes at them, whatever it is they could imagine. And then on the seventh day, let's march around 7 times. I remember that brick. That one's a little out of askew over there. And yet God was asking them to step out and do something unorthodox, something they had never done before. Why? I think it was so that he could show the battle doesn't belong to you having great spears and swords. The battle doesn't belong to, and it belongs to me. I will bring it. And the walls just fell down when they shouted. It's not because of how loud they shouted. It's because of how good God is. If they had remembered, and maybe they did, I don't know, as they were doing this, maybe they just were confident in faith. They weren't scratching their heads or pulling on their beards at all and worry. They might have remembered there was another time they had been asked to step out, or at least their ancestors had, their great-great-grandfathers and such. That time when they were there coming up out of Egypt, and behind them was the Egyptian army, and ahead of them was the Red Sea, and they looked absolutely stuck. And God had said, step out. I'll part the waters. And they did something they never thought could do. They went through a path that looked impossible. I think in a lot of ways, here's one. Have you heard anybody in the church talk about offerings in the last year? If you had told me that a church could go a year without passing the offering plate around, I think I would have laughed in your face. And yet God has been good. He's been good through each and every one of you and the other donations that have come in online and mailed in and picked up by elders and every other way. People have stepped out in faith. And then we have this wonderful ultimate example in our gospel reading today. I think one of the things to take away from this is just, first of all, this hopeful, faithful attitude Peter had. All right, Jesus, if it's really you, will you invite me to step out and do something I've never done before? I wonder if we made that our prayer. What might happen? Who might God reveal to us and show to us? Once, Chuck Swindoll, a great preacher who I think many of you may have known and listened to on the radio in years past, he once read a little poem in one of his sermons called, Lord, give me $2 worth of God, please. Not enough that I'd go do something crazy like become a missionary or give away all of my money, but just enough to give me a nice warm feeling inside and to put up with some of those irritating people at work or in my neighborhood. Lord, I don't want to have a full-on commitment to you. I just want to feel nice on Sunday and feel good about myself. So may I please have $2 worth of God? That wasn't Peter's attitude, and I pray it's not ours. It was an attitude of Peter saying, Lord, would you invite me to do this? Would you make it possible for my faith and my life to have a new adventure, to go to a new level? Maybe Peter didn't want to just be the one fisherman who always told the story about the one who got away. Maybe he wanted to be the one that said, I could look down on them because I was walking on water. Whatever it was that motivated him, I hope we might ask Jesus the same thing. Lord, I know you're good. What would you want me to step out and try? Who would you want me to reach out and share with or serve? How would you want me to grow in my faith so my knowledge of your goodness isn't ineffective or unproductive? Well, Jesus does call him. Come on out, Peter. Come on out and step out of the boat. Step out of the comfort that you've known. Step out of the, you've always done it this way. Step out and try this with me. I don't know what that might be for Gethsemane as a whole in 2021, or for you as individuals. I don't know that it'll even be as dramatic as walking on water. But again, It's pretty dramatic to have a church not take offerings for a year and be just fine. It's pretty dramatic and amazing to have so many people reach out and call and connect and serve, and all the mission projects that Lisa's helped us to do with our baskets to first responders and to nurses and everything else. How might he be asking us to step out of the boat? Now, Peter struggled. We know that. We could snigger at him, and maybe the other disciples did, although I imagine Jesus looked at all of them and said, well, none of you asked to step out, and none of you even tried. I can sort of picture that happening too. But Peter did struggle. But when he struggled, he knew exactly what to do. Lord, save me. I'm struggling. I tried to step out. My first step at it was struggled a bit. It didn't quite work out. Strengthen me, reach me, pull me back up and start me again. And God is so good that he does that. And he will always do it. He may laugh at us a bit, laugh with us. You have little faith. How is it that the wind distracted you? Keep your eyes on me next time and you'll do great. The winds are going to blow. The uncertainty of markets and health environments and everything else are going to blow and try to distract us. And if we get distracted, let's do the same thing and call out, Lord, save me again. Keep on saving me. Keep on taking me by the hand. But let us also worship. Let us also ask, like Peter, Lord, if it's you, how do you want me to step out? How do you want me to add to self-control, perseverance, that I'd try more in prayer, try more in serving and not give up? How is it you want me to add to that perseverance, godliness, that I look and act more like you everywhere I go? In HEB, when they don't have milk back in stock yet, darn it, that I still keep smiling. And I'm thankful that I didn't starve and I made it through. That I add to that godliness, mutual affection. I really look someone in the eye today and I tell them, I'm so glad to see you again. It's been so long. You just never know how that encouraging word might help someone connect back in when they felt disconnected after this most disjointed of years that we've all been through. And to add to all that, love. That's the ultimate gift of stepping out, isn't it? Whether we speak it, whether we pray it, whether we act it, whether it is something we stop doing. Love is the ultimate expression of stepping out. And this year, this very Sunday, as we think about stepping out of the boat or stepping out of our comfort zone, know that if we keep our eyes on Jesus, he'll help us do what looked before impossible. And he will grab us if there's any and every time we ever struggle. So let's trust him. Let's do it. Let's step out and let him be glorified as we are a part of even greater adventures here in this new year. May God be glorified in and through our efforts of stepping out. Amen.